Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carey. You've heard about the 3-day rule, right? Not to be confused with the 3-date rule, which is meant to be used before sleeping with somebody new. Anyone thinking that 3 dates and then sex on date 4 is a great rule? I don't remember that episode on Sex and the City, but I do know it exists. I also don't remember a time when a rule about intimacy and a timeline would make sense for 100% of the people 100% of the time. But the 3-day rule was originally popularized in the 80s. And for those of you who think that was about 20 years ago, I want to point out it's over 40 years ago. And I remember. Also, side note, there's a matchmaking company with that same name, but their reviews by my own clients are not glowing, if you catch my drift. So what do we make of this rule? Is it still relevant in 2024? Will it help you connect with somebody? Will it come across the way it was intended? That's what I want to talk about today. If that's at all interesting, or if you're using the 3-day rule, make sure you stick around because that's what's on the agenda. Age is certainly at play here. Based on clients and my comment section here, I would feel comfortable generalizing that there is mostly middle-aged clients and beyond, men, who are still using the 3-day rule. They don't want to appear too eager and are still playing that game from the 80s. Maybe it's because they heard about it when they were first dating years ago and feel comfortable resurrecting it years later if they're back on the market again. But hopefully having a conversation about it today will allow them to look at it a little more closely, analyze it, and see if it's still something worth hanging on to. Talk to any millennial, many of them haven't even heard of the 3-day rule or ever adhered to this guideline. While simultaneously, as a group, having more anxiety than boomers ever admitted to, they're also less bound by rules or standards. They'll tell you that they're not into playing games. Why would I pretend to not be interested after a great first date? Others are appalled that someone would on purpose choose to increase their anxiety on whether their assessment of the date was accurate. That's always been my take as well, so I agree with this. You may have noticed, especially if you've been here before, that I'm pretty direct and not much of a game player, so I kind of feel that way about this rule. Number 2, I would be remiss if I also didn't mention that the phone calls, actual phone calls where people talk to each other, are not a favorite of people younger. Communication for them is more likely to be texting, and waiting 3 days to text somebody just feels crazy. Now the real number 2, online dating literally annihilates the value of the 3-day rule. Half the time with these different apps and sites, we can see when someone's online. This adds a whole other dimension when you're thinking you're invisible and we're watching you log in and out of a dating app. You don't have time to call, but you have time to be checking messages or swiping for somebody who's not me, huh? Prioritizing time to be back on the app rather than messaging us, we just kind of think that's rude. Number 3, the goal was to appear not too interested and definitely not desperate. If you like someone, it's easy to get in touch these days. Waiting for 3 days looks and feels so ingenuous. We will and should make assumptions that you're not interested if you can't message for 3 whole days. So if this is something that you've been doing for a long time, I'm glad we're having this conversation now so you can maybe look at it from a different perspective. I encourage you to follow your heart and speak from your heart and let somebody know that you enjoyed their company and you hope you can get together soon. You could just say it. I really enjoyed your company. I'd like to get together again soon. I hope you feel the same. Wouldn't that be what you would want to hear from someone whose company you really enjoyed over the last 2 hours? I think it is. Hey, it's Carey interrupting my own episode with a very brief commercial for you. I just wanted to let you know that I created a new free guide. Hope you got the one about meeting people in the wild, how to meet people organically out there in the real world. But this new one is 33 questions, great questions for dating, for a first date, second date. They're really cool, so you can pick and choose. Make sure that you grab that guide. The link is down in my description box. And let's get back to the episode. I'll tell you what does still have relevance. Check out these rules in this episode about first dates, first date rules. these are something I could get behind. I did actually when I filmed it, and I still do. I hope that you'll take a minute and give the episode a thumbs up as Mom's suggesting, and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to seeing you back soon, and until next time, have a good one.